In the heart of North American folklore lies the chilling legend of the Wendigo, a creature that haunts the wilderness, embodying hunger, greed, and the darkest depths of the human psyche. But what lies behind this ancient myth? The Wendigo finds its roots in the oral traditions of various indigenous peoples, particularly among the Algonquian tribes such as the Ojibwe, Cree, and Algonquin. It's often described as a malevolent spirit or entity driven by an insatiable craving for human flesh. According to legend, the Wendigo was once a human who, in times of extreme famine or desperation, resorted to cannibalism. This act was believed to corrupt the individual's soul, transforming them into a Wendigo, a monstrous being doomed to roam the forests, forever craving the taste of human flesh. While skeptics may dismiss the Wendigo as mere superstition, there have been documented cases that defy explanation.
My boyfriend and I get off work around 10 or 10:30, so we grocery shop at work. Work doesn't close until midnight. We were headed home, and we take the shortcuts. On our way home, we saw a slender but muscular person running naked across the road like an animal on all fours. The more we stared, the less human it looked. Muscular, thin legs, hair fur running down its butt down to the calves. It was a curve next to a canal, so as we turned, we saw it, and our light beam shined on it. Our brights were on, and my lights shined on the orchards it ran into. Those trees were leafless and apart, so we were able to see how it ran into the trees. Both my boyfriend and I saw it, and both agreed. It was no human, no monkey, no other animal, just a messed up creature. I recently told a friend, and she told me it was a Wendigo. We live in the Central Valley in California, and this is one of the weirdest encounters we've had.
The case in Central Valley is just one example of the many reported sightings of the Wendigo throughout history. While some may attribute these encounters to hallucinations or folklore, the sheer number of accounts from credible witnesses cannot be ignored. Despite the passage of time, the legend of the Wendigo continues to evoke fear and fascination among those who dare to explore the untamed wilderness. Its origins may be shrouded in mystery, but its legacy endures, a haunting reminder of the thin line between humanity and monstrosity.
We were on our way from our aunt's house because she needed help mounting her new TV. So, on the way from the store, we stopped at our aunt's place, helped her, and went on about our business. Our aunt lives in this neighborhood that's out in the country, so there's nothing but miles and miles of trees with a few houses in between. Mom was the one driving, and we both saw this tall, lanky body, white creature with the face of a deer. But we both knew it wasn't a deer. Mom started speeding fast as hell down the freeway, and what made this even scarier is that we were the only cars on the road. For a while, we didn't even say anything to one another, and she finally said, "Did you see that thing run across the road?" I told her I did, and we drifted off into silence again. Today, she brought it up again and said it looked like a Wendigo, and I definitely agreed. She thinks this is the second time she's seen this thing.
It was a cold night in late November in Boulder, Colorado, and a few friends and I were just driving around, smoking and drinking beers. We had been aimlessly driving back and forth around town, talking and enjoying ourselves. Prior to this, I had read stories and watched videos of native elders discussing the Wendigo and had an interest in the subject. I remember that my friend's girlfriend, who was Native American, was with us at the time, so I asked her if she had heard of the Wendigo, and she said yes. We continued to aimlessly drive up the mountain, past a place known as Flagstaff, up on the flat irons of Boulder. It was a deep, dark wooded area, far from the city, that by day looked absolutely beautiful, but by night had a very eerie and spooky feel to it. I had been there dozens of times at night, and every time I had felt a deep intuition that something evil lurked around that area, especially in winter. This feeling had been present long before I knew of the Wendigo or believed in anything supernatural or spiritual. In fact, I had seen orange lights on the Flagstaff Mountains and above them many times, and had also heard stories of orange bell-shaped lights floating around the area. We stopped at a common hiking spot in the parking spaces right in front of the trailhead, and all of a sudden, I felt a surreal feeling of darkness. It felt as though something wasn't right, and there was a deep feeling of mystery about the spot we were at. While all my friends were talking, for some reason, I began to zone out, looking deep into the pines. I stared deep into the forest, and in the moonlight, I could see little kids running back and forth, hiding behind trees. Immediately, I knew what I was seeing was something demonic. Kids wouldn't be out at 3 a.m. in winter in the woods, and the way they were darting back and forth looked unnatural. At this point, I felt almost hypnotized and kind of shook, but more intrigued than anything. These kids began to start running in a circle, and a kind of blurry mist started forming. Out of this mist, a classic Wendigo started forming. A slender white figure with its jaw gaping open unnaturally, and its long hands moving up and down, doing a kind of dance while just staring at me. Both the kids and the Wendigo looked like they were fading in and out of physical reality like spirits. At the time, I'd never heard of the black-eyed children, but now I suspect that's what those kids were. I mentioned what I was seeing to my friends, and they thought I was trying to mess with them, and both the Wendigo and kids quickly disappeared out of sight. It was pretty bizarre. I remember to this day the level of detail was insane, so I know it wasn't my mind playing tricks on me.
The earliest documented reference to the Wendigo dates back to a 1636 report by Paul Lejeune, a French Jesuit missionary residing among the Algonquian people in present-day Quebec. Lejeune recounted a woman's warning about an Achin which had consumed some tribal members nearby and would continue its rampage if not diverted elsewhere. A number of instances of violence and cannibalism in North America were attributed to the Wendigo. Among these was a case in Alberta, Canada in 1879, where a Cree hunter and trapper named Swift Runner claimed a Wendigo spirit had entered his dreams and instructed him to consume his family. He was convicted of the crime, found guilty, and subsequently hanged later that year. Another incident took place in 1907 within the Sandy Lake First Nation community in northern Ontario. The tribal shaman, Jack Fiddler, and his brother, Joseph Fiddler, were accused of the murder of Joseph's daughter-in-law, whom they had strangled to prevent her from being possessed by a Wendigo. Following their arrest, Jack Fiddler eluded the authorities and took his own life, while Joseph Fiddler passed away from tuberculosis in prison in 1909. The legend of the Wendigo has fascinated non-Indigenous authors since the 19th century. Theodore Roosevelt, in his work The Wilderness Hunter, 1893, included a tale of a bear-like creature haunting the camp of two hunters, often interpreted as either Bigfoot or a Wendigo. British author Algernon Blackwood's novella The Wendigo, 1910, recounts a similar story of a mysterious monster prowling a Canadian wilderness campsite. Stephen King featured a Wendigo in his horror novel Pet Sematary, 1983, and Margaret Atwood explored the Wendigo legend in her lectures on Canadian literature. The Wendigo has made its way into various forms of media, including television shows like Hannibal, video games like Until Dawn, and comic books such as The Incredible Hulk and Wolverine. Join us as we continue to delve into the mysteries of the unknown. To support me and hear more of these stories, leave a follow, like, and put on notifications, and it might prepare you for an encounter with the unknown. Thanks for watching and stay safe.